Ngenzi Rigzin nidin doje tsal maung deshi mepa thai shab tata pechung gyasa dobingo jiri yeshi doje la sawa de. Ngenzi Rigzin nidin doje tsal maung deshi mepa thai shab tata pechung gyasa dobingo jiri yeshi doje la sawa de. Ngenzi Rigzin nidin doje tsal maung deshi mepa thai shab tata pechung gyasa dobingo jiri yeshi doje la sawa de. Say. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Also, thank you for the invitation today to speak on a subject matter that is very close to my heart. So for those of you who don't know me, just let me briefly expand on the introduction already given. So for me, I just entered the Dharma, when I think about it, actually 5 years ago, but really committed to the Dharma 3 years ago. Before then, I led an ordinary life, just like the rest of you. And it was upon my father's parinirvana that I was, by default, put in a position to take responsibility for the lineage. And then it took me about 2 years to really not just contemplate, but also to really reflect on my life and trying to kind of put things into perspective as to what I wanted to do, because even 1 year after my father's parinirvana, I was still uncertain about my future, because this is the path I didn't want to enter for my own personal reasons. And then my sister, 1 year later, she entered parinirvana, and that was the turning point in my life when I decided to honor the commitments my sister had expressed. And so I thought to myself, for the first time, with devotion in my heart, I said, this is the path that I choose, rather than thinking of it as being a path that was chosen for me. So it's been 3 years now, my journey on this Dharma path. I think most of you have been longer Dharma practitioners than I have. So when I approach things, I rather approach it from my own experience during this last few years. That's my main focal point. I don't approach the Dharma from a scholarly perspective. For me, I haven't done the required studies that's needed, but I've come to the realization that when I speak from the heart and based on my own experience, at least it is within the framework of how the Dharma should be, or it is the essence of what the Dharma is all about. So today, the subject matter is on loss, love, and compassion, and how it changes one, and how also one deals with it. So going back to my childhood, my first experience on dealing with death was my babysitter. I think I was 7 or 8 when he passed away from leukemia. Back then, it was very difficult to understand what loss was. So it was, I wouldn't say painful, but after he left, it was a lot of confusion and wondering why this had to happen. It was more so why, rather than grieving, honestly speaking. Then during my teens, I lost my grandmother. And this was a seismic shift for me in terms of this was the first time I really was, in a way, very difficult to understand how to grieve this loss, because I was a young teenager. Uh, yes, with all teenagers, we have priorities, partying, girlfriends, and all of this, and then you're hit with this loss, and then you don't know how to deal with it. It's very difficult to deal with it. So that was one of the turning points in my life, losing my grandmother from my mother's side. But then in 2013, after many years spending time with my father side of the family, uh, I grew up with my mother's side of the family till I was 19 or 20. And then at 21 or 20, I don't remember the exact date, I thought I'd go over and reconnect with my father because my mother and father were separated when I was very young. So at that point in time, I reconnected with my father in my early 20s. And then, long story short, he put me in Namdrilling Monastery, in Parinirvana Rinpoche's monastery in Belakupi. And this was a huge culture shock for me because I come from um, a Western educated sort of a background rather than a traditional upbringing of a Tiku system. I myself have told people that I only found out who I was when I was 19 or 17. I don't remember the exact age, when three people or four of the monks, I think three or four of them, started prostrating in the streets once while I was shopping in the streets of Thimphu, our capital in Bhutan. And I thought they had made a mistake because they mistook me for my brother, who's Katsusitu Rinpoche, one of the head of the Katok lineage. And they were like, no, no, are you the son of Shenphen Rinpoche? And I said, yes. Grandson of Dudjom Rinpoche? I said, yes. Then they said, yes, we are prostrating to you because you're Polong Sangyum Rinpoche. It was at that moment I found out who I was. So even then, finding out who I was, I still didn't have this motivation to do the dharma, so to speak. It's not that I didn't have faith or that I didn't have devotion, but it was a path that I really didn't want to embark upon. So as I said a few years ago in 2000, was it 17 or 18 or 2018, during the parinirvana of my father, that was the first time I entered the dharma by default. And in 2019, upon the parinirvana of my sister, then I fully committed to this path. And it's just been 3 years now I've been on this path. And even now, right now, sitting here talking to all of you, it's a little bit uneasy for me because I'm not used to talking or speaking, especially in public forums or in public, because I was a very introverted person 5 years ago, as well as I feel like there's nothing that I can teach. So today, whatever I say, please just take it as an advice, not as a teaching. 2013, I lost my grandmother, that's Dudjom Rinpoche's Sayum wife, in 2013. And although it was devastating to lose her, I still couldn't completely comprehend the loss. So it must have been like I was in denial, perhaps, or something like that. So it didn't affect me to the degree it should have, for whatever reasons. But then my father passed away in 2018. That was the first time uh, I truly, truly, really grieved to an extent where it's a little confusing as well, honestly speaking, because I didn't have that son and father relationship or the father and son relationship, because for most of my life he was not present. And at the moment when I met him, it was more of a teacher-student kind of a relationship rather than a father-son relationship. That bond didn't exist. It was more out of respect for my father. But that moment when he left, and then I had to shoulder the responsibilities, it dawned on me how much sacrifices he had made. Because when you're not uh, responsible for the center, you don't realize the amount of sacrifices like we have to make. So the grieving process for me losing my father took a long time. It took months and months for me to fully comprehend and understand the loss, the profound loss of him not being present there. Now, the turning point of what I say is the seismic shift in how my world turned upside down was the loss of my sister, Simul Hanzela, because I was the closest to her. And for the first month after her loss, it was bearable in a sense because I was very distracted. We had to do 49 days of ceremonies, and even after the ceremonies for another 2 weeks, making the tzatzas, preparing that. So that part was very easy for me. I got through it because there was a lot of distraction, And this is one point where I've talked about this many times, is that for me, since I didn't grow up in a traditional upbringing in the Tuku system or in the Dharma, so for me, the way I express my love for those who've left is I cry. It's just a natural reaction, I think, for all of us to cry. But I've been told time and again, even during my father's time when I was crying, they said it's not good to shed tears. It's not done in the tradition. This is considered something that one must never do. But for me, I've come from a different viewpoint, from a different experience, because for me, to shed tears is the highest form of expression of love for somebody. Just like we have the mudras we say it's called the language of implied meaning, means deep within our heart. Although we have devotion, words alone are not enough to express that devotion. And therefore, whatever mudras that we do is the symbol of devotion that cannot be expressed in words. So for me, that's what mudras are. And that's why whenever I do mudras, I make sure it's done gracefully, because it's an expression of devotion that cannot be expressed. In the same way, I feel shedding tears for your loved ones is the highest form of expression of love for me. So that's one aspect. When grieving, I differ from the Dharma point of view. And during my sister's 49 days, there was not a single day that I didn't shed tears. And although I was really counseled, at least in public, not to shed tears, I said, this is one emotion that one cannot suppress. I think it's good to grieve. And so for those of you, especially Buddhists that I come across who are suppressing their emotions, not to shed tears, for me, at least from my point of view, I think it's one of the most beautiful form of expression of love that one has had for one's loved one who's no longer here with us. And it's our offering. The tears is our offering of our love for them. So this is one way we express our love, one way we offer our hearts to those who are no longer with us. So for me, I think it's okay. For those of you who are going through a grieving process, if you have a conflict in what the Dharma says and how you feel, sometimes I realize that we also have to leave the Dharma aside and really be honestly connect with our inner feelings. And however it is expressed, let it out. I always tell people, if you are angry, don't suppress your anger. Let your anger out. If you're grieving, don't suppress your tears. Cry if you need to cry. Because even when you're angry, if you suppress your anger, then if you're in denial of your anger, there's no way I believe that you can work with that issue that you're having. But if you express it, at least you recognize it for what it is, then you're able to work with it. So it also in the grieving process, if we suppress our grief, at least for me, if you suppress your grief and you're in denial of the grief, or you are trying to be somebody that you're not in the situation that you find yourself in, then you won't be able to deal with it. It's very difficult. So crying, shedding tears, whatever you call it, is also one way of healing. So it's very important. Now, my sister's loss was very devastating for me. And even till this day, I haven't been able to heal fully from it, because they say time heals, but from my own experience, the longer I go in my life without her, it's like as I've said before, it's like a scar that never heals. It's just like a wound. Like I've said this before, like scabs, they just form on it, and sometimes certain smells, certain environments, certain things, it triggers that memory that you're trying to not remember, and then you scratch itch, and then it bleeds. So it's something that one lives with. So it's a grief that one cannot get over, but in another way, it's also very transformative, this pain. For me, I've used this pain as a way to better myself as a person, as a Dharma practitioner, because the Dharma always emphasizes one of the four thoughts that turns the mind to the Dharma. In the Wondro, it says this impermanence. But this can be, you can read it, recite it a million times, but when you experience it's just profoundly different in the sense that you truly, truly understand what it means. So I've used the pain that I'm still going through right now, even as I speak to you, and I usually don't like talking about, um, just like all of us, maybe perhaps some of you like talking about the losses that you've been through, but for me, it's still so fresh. It's just like yesterday, and even me, I haven't been able to really grieve properly my sister's loss right now. Even as I speak to you, I wish there was something I could say that would help people who are going through the situation heal. But I myself, I'm on this path of healing. So, but it's been transformative in the sense that her loss has really helped me realize that, at least for the first, after the 49 days and the 2 weeks of doing hatsas, then when I had nothing to do, that silence was very, very deafening in every sense of the world. A word, my world was completely turned upside down. And it's not that I want to say I wanted to end my life, please don't get me wrong, but for months I went through this period of why am I here? What is the reason for living? It makes no sense. If the one that you love the most has left and gone, why should I remain back? So it's not that I wanted, again, I'm emphasizing, I'm not talking about wanting to commit suicide, but also not having this strength to go on was very difficult for me. So then I realized, I think now I don't know the time frame exactly, but I came to the conclusion that even in the absence of Samuel Hanzela, I still had so many reasons to live and to work for, to look forward to, because there were others that depended on me, loved me, who were here, who were present. And for their sake, I had to be strong. For their sake, I should be motivated not to feel like this. And so it was a very slow transition from understanding how to transform pain into motivation to live for the sake of others, for the sake of those, especially for the sake of those who love you. And although this pain will never go away, at least I've learned to deal with it. And time to time, of course, again, as I say, that's why I don't like talking about this, because I get so emotionally upset. But one way Dharma teaches you, counsels you not to be attached. because attachment causes pain. But as human beings, we love. I've always said that. And because we love, we attach. And it's true that attachment is the cause of pain, but it's very difficult. I empathize with those of you who are going through pain from losing your loved ones, or for those of you who are dealing with losing a loved one from perhaps terminal illness or things like that, even being in a situation where you realize that you're going to finally separate from the person or the persons that you love. So for me, even now, it's very difficult. And I wish I could tell you that I found the answers in the Dharma on how to approach this and how to deal with it. But for me, it's been a journey of learning. And for those of you facing the same situation, it's going to be very difficult as well. But I found a purpose to help those in a situation like myself. This, after my sister's parinirvana, and then devastatingly, as you all know, we lost our Yangtze Rinpoche. And just as when I thought I was getting out of that situation, then I lost my youngest brother, Leon, in February this year. You ask yourself, why me? But it's difficult to get an answer. Of course, we all have our own inherited karma, and we determine our own future and what happens to us because of our inherited karma. I understand that part, and we all have to leave when the time is right for us to leave. But still, sometimes, you you're confused. This confusion is like, why does it happen to me? Uh, why do I have to go through this again and again? These are the questions that are still for me very difficult to find an answer to, but in a way, uh, it's been so healing for me to realize that at least that I'm not alone in this situation, that there are so many of others who are facing the same. So it's not a unique suffering that I'm going through. This is the experience which I realize that all of us, no matter who we are, will have to face. And so in realizing that, at least I've been able to transform this pain to heal myself and to help others heal as well. One way that I do that is I never say no to being there for somebody who's going through a similar situation, because I've been there so many times. I understand, I empathize to a certain degree. I know the pain that they're going through. So helping people in a situation, similar situation like this has been not just healing for me, but as well as from a Dharma point of view, it has profoundly motivated me to also concentrate on practices, especially dealing with death and dying, as we do here with Katha Dosem and Lama Dosem Chöpa. Another way this grief has really helped me transform is it's helped me realize what truly love and compassion is. Because we're always talking about love and compassion in our Sangha here, as well as in the Sangha from all over the world. The emphasis is always on love and compassion. But for me, I feel that we've really, truly never been able to truly understand the depth of what it really means is to love and to be compassionate. For me, to be compassionate is to see not just your pain, but the pain also in everyone that you meet. I've always said this time and again that when you see somebody, even if you meet them for a brief moment, even if it's for a fleeting moment, see your pain in them as well. Realize that they too are going through their own struggles and obstacles. And when you're able to have that kind of realization, then you don't have to worry about concentrating on wisdom or insight and compassion. When you're able to have that kind of realization, whoever you meet, it generates wisdom and compassion and love within you with that kind of realization. And wherever I've gone, wherever I've given advice and talks on, I've always emphasized that love, the Vajrayana love for me has a whole different meaning now through all these experiences. And it means that when you love someone or somebody, you love everybody with an open heart, no matter who they are, no matter what choices they have made. It's unconditional. It's I think the highest form of Vajrayana love one can have, and this kind of we can have the motivation and the aspiration to love in such a way, but I understand we're human beings, and therefore we are conditioned, and therefore we may not be able to open our hearts to everybody, even though for momentarily, maybe during this talk, or maybe sometimes when you gather to do prayers or you do your personal practices, that even for a brief moment, if you're able to open your heart to everybody without condition, that's the highest form of love. We will not be able to sustain that because we get distracted very easily as human beings, and we are also a complex being with a lot of emotions, and it's very difficult to know where we are, and therefore it's very difficult to sustain this kind of awareness. But from all of these losses, at least something that motivates me and inspires me, and one of my aspiration is to love everybody with no condition, to be compassionate with everybody that I meet. That is to say that I see myself, my reflection in everybody that I meet. I understand that my pain is not unique, that everybody eventually will also go through the pain that I've been through. And therefore, when you are able to transform that pain into this kind of awareness and realization, then you really, I believe, at least from my own point of view, I believe that is what the essence of the Dharma is about, is to help us gain these kind of realizations. For me, I've said, if you do practice accumulations, if you do retreats, millions of accumulations, if you do years and years of retreats, but you're not able to even have a taste of this kind of realization, then it's useless. Here in the Dharma, again, so much emphasis is always laid on the Dzogchen point of view. Dzogchen point of view. For me, there cannot be a higher practice of Dzogchen than opening your heart to everyone. I think that's the highest form of Dzogchen practice one can do. for me. It's not always about meditation. It's not always about accumulation. It's not always about retreats. It's about having this kind of realization, understanding truly, truly, genuinely understanding of the pain and suffering of not just oneself, but to understand the pain and suffering that everybody goes through. If you're able to have that realization, even for a brief moment, I think that's one of the highest forms of Dzogchen practice, at least for me, from my point of view. So these kind of moments in my life has been very profoundly transformative. It's been my experience that has been more transformative than the Dharma itself. As a representative of the Dharma teacher, I know it's a weird thing to hear, but it's been my own personal experience of experiences of dealing with death, dying, and the loss of loved ones that has been profoundly impactful in me, making this path of mine, this Dharma path, more meaningful and more profound than the Dharma teachings itself. Because, not to criticize anybody, this is just my advice, because I also count myself as one of those who used to hear a lot of Dharma teaching, read a lot of Dharma books, listen to a lot of Dharma teachings, receive a lot of empowerments, but it never had the impact like losing a loved one, for me at least. I've received empowerments from Gyatrul Rinpoche, Venerable Rinpoche, His Holiness the Karmapa. I mean, of course, my father, Dudjom Rinpoche as well. But the impact of change that has taken place in my heart, the profound transformation that has taken in my heart has been the transformation of the pain of losing a loved one and transforming that into devotion. So it has also helped me understand that, at least for me, again, I'm not speaking from a Dharma point of view as one who represents a lineage, but for me, what's incredible has been this effort, because people ask, what is devotion for me? That this definition of devotion, this is a question I get asked a lot, is what is devotion? So from my own experience, devotion for me is not about doing retreats. It's not about doing your practice. It's not about doing the accumulations and things like that. We all do that because we have a purpose, we have expectations, For me, devotion is the effort that we make. That effort that we make either to practice or the effort that we make to help somebody that is in need. That effort is the definition of what devotion to the Dharma is the effort we make. Today, I may be tired. I may not be in the best of in my mood. I may not be happy, but then you get a call, say somebody is sick, they need to see you. You make that effort, even in the worst of your times. You make that effort to go and see that person, or you will make an effort to listen to somebody who's going through a lot of pain. You make that effort, even though you have a lot of pain yourself, even though you're going through a lot of struggles yourself, but you make that effort. That effort is what I call devotion for me. So this is the kind of perspectives that have changed. So when my younger brother passed away this February, he was in the Bhutanese National Guard. And every time I met my brother, I would tell him, don't waste your time in doing this kind of service. It's more important that you take care of our mother, take care of the business, and things like that. Each time I would emphasize that to him, and he never listened to me. And I'm so happy he didn't listen to me, because he died doing what he loved. That again changed my perspective in life. I've said this time and again. Now, please excuse my language. I don't know how else to say it, but I've said this over and over again. Now, if somebody tells me she's a bitch, I say, I hope she's a happy bitch. If somebody says he's a bastard, I say, I hope he's a happy bastard. You know, my perception has changed, my perspective has changed. Now I just wish happiness for everybody. And this comes genuinely from my heart. And this also comes because of the loss of my brother Leon. And again, that's how I express my transformation. At least this is how I define how I have transformed from losing loved ones. It has also profoundly impacted my views completely. It's not even a dharma point of view I'm talking about. So the loss of my brother helped me change my perception. It helped me transform my mind again. So I use that pain to better myself. Now, whenever I meet people, even if parents say, this is my child, this child is good for nothing, this is a useless child, I say, I hope he's a good for nothing, useless child. I'm happy for him as long as he's happy. So this is, again, as I say, the shift in my viewpoint, in myself, in my heart. So these losses have really, as you can now realize, impacted me, and it's been more profoundly transformative than the Dharma teachings that I've received, at least for me. But when you think about it, it's all within the framework of the Dharma. That's what the Dharma is. Dharma is about transforming. And again, as I said, again, I'm not criticizing anybody, but whenever we practice, why do we practice usually? It's always because I want good health. I want my business to succeed. I'm ill. You know, when do we genuinely ever practice thinking, oh, so and so is ill, let me practice for that person, or there's something going on here? I mean, not to show in a group setting, but genuinely when we sit by ourselves and when we practice and we reflect within and contemplate, when do we really practice of thinking like, oh, you know, I want to practice for the benefit of others? It's very rare, even as Buddhist practitioners. And whenever I talk to people, I always tell them it's okay, we are human beings. It's okay to be selfish, I understand. So it's also, we want to have some sort of answer to the things that we are going through, or have some sort of resolution to the conflicts we have within ourselves. Also, I've come to the realization with this pain is that we talk about so much emphasis, and we talk about really emphasizing that people should change. But rarely do we ever reflect within and say, no, I should change, you know. So when we get together, again, please, I'm saying this, it's not a critical view. Again, I have to emphasize that, because don't please take this out of context. As Buddhists, we pray for so much world peace. We do for so much world peace. Just like recently, I've up there been given 108 prayer wheels to install for the world peace and things like that, which I think is beautiful. But if we cannot even resolve the own conflict within our own Sangha, how are we ever going to change the world? Maybe we should put the prayer wheels in our own homes, 108 prayer wheels in our own room, to change ourselves. So what I have learned from this, again, grieving process, is that I am now not here to change anybody. I'm not here to point out what you're doing right or what you're doing wrong. I'm not here to judge you, but I'm here to transform myself. And I believe, and I strongly believe, that if we contemplate and work on ourselves, then collectively, all our conflicts, even within the Sangha, will start diminishing. Without even being able to resolve the conflict within our own Vajra brothers and sisters, or within our own community. We Buddhists do so much world peace prayers and sokpas and things like that, which is a wonderful, again, as I say, which is a wonderful intention. It's a wonderful aspiration to have. But I believe that kind of intention and aspiration should be to work on ourselves. And at least this is what my brother's loss has at least taught me so far, is because, I wanted to change him from him doing something that he loved, because it was selfish for me to do that, because I didn't realize it. Of course, now it's too late to tell him, I'm sorry, I tried to take you away, or at least tried to advise you to do something different from what you loved doing. So that made me realize that self-transformation emphasis should be on that. We should work on ourselves, because we are biased towards ourselves. So we are not good judges of character regarding ourselves. That's what it is. So when I was doing that to my brother, selfishly, I was doing it for my own, to see, to hope to see him transform into something that I wanted, So it didn't come from a genuine source of love and understanding. It came from, this is what I want him to do. So if he does that, I will be happy. It was not about, what is he doing that makes him happy? I want him to do that. It's more of, I want him to do that because I want to be happy. So I am satisfied, So that's why, for me, losing loved ones has been the most important form of teachings that I have received, Dharma teachings. These are Dharma teachings, in a way, transforming the heart, realizing the essence of the Dharma is bodhicitta. Before, I was one of the many teachers as well who threw that word bodhicitta out like it was just, what do you call it? Like breaking out in measles or chicken pox, you know what I mean? Or having, we had the, what is this, the 3 years we had? Oh, the pandemic, yes. Bodhicitta is a word we threw out, and it's a pandemic amongst us Buddhist practitioners. We call it bodhicitta, love and compassion, bodhicitta. But how many of us really contemplate on that truly? That's what this pain has helped me realize, is that even myself, I was throwing this out. It was so cheaply. I was saying bodhicitta, pray for the benefit of all sentient beings. Everything must arise from bodhicitta. And I used to say that myself without even really fully understanding what it meant. But the pain that I've gone through, the losses that I have faced, even the losses that I have seen people facing, even as recently as few months ago, even as recently as few days ago, meeting with people who have terminal illnesses, it's really been a powerful form of teaching for me. That's my Dharma experience has been more powerful as a teacher than my approach to Dharma from reading and listening and receiving empowerment, so to speak. Not to discount again that these teachings and all are not important, but if I have to be genuinely honest and forthright with all of you, this kind of loss, seeing people who are going through pain and suffering, these have been powerful forms of teachings for me. It's really helped me, it's shaping me to something, or to somebody, I hope, that's a better version of myself than I was 4 years ago, than I was 3 days ago, even. But again, one way, in truly, if you really want to cultivate this love and compassion within yourself, I've always told people what's imperative is that even if you are not truthful to your family or even to your teacher, be truthful to yourself. This is very important. I've always said, when you look at the mirror, let the truth be reflected back at you. This is important, because when the truth is reflected back at you, then you're able to work with your shortcomings. Then you're able to realize what kind of transformation is needed. Where am I going wrong? Or truthful with yourself. Okay, I said to Richie, for instance, I said, oh, this hairstyle looks ugly on you. But I said that out of jealousy because he's better looking than me. Richie sitting here, you know. So then in the evening, in the night, when I contemplate on myself and I say, okay, let me see, what did I do wrong today? I said, I shouldn't have said that to Richie because I said it out of jealousy. If I'm able to be truthful with myself, then purification and understanding what I did wrong helps me generate love and compassion. So to generate love and compassion within you, and I'm not talking about the mundane love and compassion, I'm really talking about what bodhicitta is you have to be truthful with yourself. If you are not truthful with yourself, you will never be able to work or cultivate the essence of what the Dharma is about. Again, I've said this many times, but it warrants repeating again here, is that if you go into a retreat without even understanding the essence of what the Dharma is, without having the foundation in bodhicitta, without even understanding or not even having a taste of what truly love and compassion is, if that is not the foundation in your heart, you go into a retreat, you go in as an asshole, you'll come out a bigger asshole. That's the truth. Why doesn't it work for you? Because you went in as an asshole. What did you expect? You come out a worse asshole than you went in before. So for people who want to accumulate, who want to go into retreat, my advice is always reflect on your motivation and your intention. This is very important. This, from these two, reflecting on the motivation and the intention, if it is noble, if it is pure, if it arises from bodhicitta, or just simply put, if it arises out of fearless love and what fearless compassion is, then whatever you do, whatever you build on that will be very meaningful and profound, and it'll be transformative, and you will be receiving inconceivable blessing, a different understanding of what the Dharma is. In the absence of these two aspects, which arises from bodhicitta, at least from my own experience, you know, you're not going to have a meaningful outcome or result. Is there merit in the practice? I believe there's merit in any practice that you do. It doesn't matter what your intention or motivation is. But do you truly want to cultivate love and compassion within you? Then impermanence is one of the greatest teachers that you'll ever have. And I hope that impermanence experience for all of you is far and in between, because we will experience it. It doesn't matter who we are, but I really hope it's far and in between. And impermanence is one of the most profound teachers. Or the experience of impermanence is even more profoundly transformative. It's a form of teaching that I wish you all don't go through. But if you do, then use that pain to transform yourself, because it doesn't matter whatever obstacles we face in life. Again, this is another realization I've had from losing loved ones, is it doesn't matter whatever obstacles we face in life. We have to be grateful. This is very important. We also have to be grateful that we have obstacles to face, because some people don't even have that privilege of facing the obstacles. When I tell couples, families, when you all fight with each other, things like that, be grateful you have somebody that you love that you can fight with. You know, if I want to fight with someone, Hansela, I don't have that opportunity. If I want to reprimand my youngest brother, I don't have that opportunity to reprimand him. I wish if they said, you know, he'll come back, but you're going to be arguing till you die, I'll be like, okay, no problem. I don't mind arguing with him, you know. So I don't have that opportunity. So this also realization comes from the loss. That's why I'm trying to help people understand and realize that even if you fight, get over it and move on, and be happy that I don't know who's the boss in the relationship, whether it's a husband and wife or a brother and sister, or, you know, amongst your friends. Be grateful at the end of the day, you know, and say, I had the opportunity to vent my anger at somebody that I love. You know, other people don't have that. So that realization also has come from the loss that I've faced. And as I've said, the most powerful teachings for me in the Dharma has been these kind of experiences. And even now, time to time, I'm always dealing with people who are either who've lost a loved one or who is in the process of dying. And I haven't been trained. I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist. Even from a Dharma point of view, I haven't been trained in how to deal with a situation like this. But what has helped is for me to be honest. You know, I don't tell anybody you can heal. I've not healed. How can I tell somebody, you will heal from this? Even I haven't healed. Also, what is the definition of healing? Even I don't know. Does it mean we don't cry anymore? If it means we don't cry anymore, then I definitely haven't healed. If healing means that we've been able to transform this pain into something useful, profoundly amazing, not just for the benefit for oneself, but it also benefits your others as well. It's also transform your actions in the way you view the world, in the way you view people. If that is healing, then I've healed completely. But if the definition of healing is, do I cry? Just day before yesterday, I went into Macy's where we used to go shopping with my sister, Semal Hansela, for the first time in, my God, years. The first time in years since she last, we went there many years ago. It was there. I was just in and out. I couldn't stay there for more than 10 minutes. So does that mean I haven't healed? If that's the definition of not having been healed, then I've not been healed as well. But in another sense, has it made me a better human being, more understanding? Has it helped me realize what the Dharma is about, at least according to myself, what the Dharma is about? Has my relationships changed with the people who I once used to view as my enemies? Now has that changed? If that's what the definition of healing is, and then yes, I've definitely healed from there. But it's a tough path. It's a tough journey. This only because just when you think you've stabilized, then to have another tragedy happen, and then when you think, okay, I'm just more or less getting back to normal, then another tragedy hits. So this has been it's been like on repeat almost every 3 years, 3 years, 3 years. But now my question is no longer why me. Of course, time to time, very rarely, sometimes I'm in that mindset. But now I understand there's a reason why it happens. It's one's their own inherited karma, my own inherited karma as well. But one of the most important realizations that has taken place with experiencing this is it's really helped me as a person to open my heart. Whereas even a few years ago, 5 years ago, everything was always about uh, what can I gain from this? How do I benefit from this? Now it's not about that. Now it's more about how can I shed their pain? How can I lessen somebody else's pain? What can I do? But again, I've met so many people and I tell them I understand that when you all see me, you all have an expectation that I'll be able to help and heal you or help you get over your obstacles or no matter what you're facing. But I am a human being that also has his own set of challenges and obstacles that I'm facing. I always tell people the best I can do is I can give you a small piece of my heart. I cannot give you my whole heart, but I can definitely give you a piece of my heart to hold on to. You can keep that, but then I need to save my heart for other people as well. So So there are a lot of people now who have little pieces of my heart who are holding on to it. They haven't given it back to me. So I'm forever connected to them, you know. But another question I get asked is, what can we do to help somebody in pain? Because they say that, we're doing our best. You do what you can according to your capacity. Even this love and compassion must be infused with wisdom. Right? As I tell people, I'm so sorry, I cannot devote my entire energy, love, and compassion to one person because you're not the only person that's suffering. There are hundreds and hundreds who are also suffering. So many of people who are in the same situation that you find yourself in. Therefore, at best, even if I meet you for 5 minutes, I give you my full attention. I will do the best that I can to help, but that's all I can offer because then again, there are other people that I need to meet, that I need to counsel, who are also grieving. So for all of you also, those who are helping, we cannot concentrate our energy just on one person or one family because there's so many people. So you always do the best that you can, but you genuinely have to have empathy when you meet these people, especially if you've been through this yourself. One thing is, if you don't have genuine empathy, then there's not going to be any result at all. So this realization of pain and suffering that one goes through, whoever you're meeting, counseling, or whoever you are trying to help, be it a friend who's going through a tough time, you must have that understanding and realization, or call it empathy if you must, but I say this realization that the pain that I'm going through is the pain that that person is going through. Why I say always see your pain in others is because people get confused. They say, no, they have a different kind of pain. I say, I understand they go through a different kind of pain. But we are selfish human beings because our pain is the most important than others' pain. You see, that's why I say always see your pain in others because your pain will always be a greater pain than anybody else's pain. It doesn't matter if that family is going through a worse circumstances than you are, or that person is going through a more devastating circumstance than you are. Because as human beings, nothing can be greater than our own pain. That's why I always counsel people, see your pain in others. I'm not saying I'm not saying do not deny the other person's pain. I'm saying if you truly want to have empathy, think of one pain that hurts you the most and see that being reflected in every person that you meet. Because what is the dearest thing to us? It's our life. And anything that causes an obstacle to our life is very painful for us. And as human beings, our pain is greater than anybody's pain. That's given. That's from my own experience as well. For many years, I was like that. It could have been one pimple here, but that pimple pain I went through with that acne here is worse than even anybody else is going through, whether they're going through a breakup or not. I couldn't care less. This is worse. Nothing can be worse than the pain I'm going through, but that's how we are as human beings. Therefore, I always say, take the worst pain that you're going through, see that reflection in everyone that you meet. And when you see that reflection of pain in that somebody else, then you will automatically, you will be cultivating love and compassion. It's one of the, for me at least, this is how it's helped. So people say, thank you so much for helping me. I said, no, I'm not helping you. Actually, the truth of the matter is I see my pain in you, so I'm trying to help myself. it's a wrong method, but good results. So for me, it's like this. Also, again, this is not from a dharma point of view. This is again from my own experience. So whoever I've met, even even if it's a 4-year-old kid, just like the Bhutanese group yesterday, or from a teenager to the elderly people, I always see my pain in them, and then I go, then then you don't have to worry about cultivation of love and compassion, or the cultivation of the aspects of bodhicitta, because what's the best way of practicing bodhicitta is to love yourself. So if you love yourself so much, you see that pain in others, it's yourself as well. So you will be cultivating love and compassion there. anything, any tragic events that have taken place in your life, any obstacles that you're facing, uh, even if it feels like it's you're not able to overcome obstacles and things like that. Nevertheless, you have to reflect on how grateful you should be that you're able to face this obstacle. It is in this gratitude that you'll be able to cultivate love and compassion. And whenever you face obstacles, you must also always realize that you're not the only one facing obstacles. There are so many others that face the obstacles, maybe even worse of obstacles than yourself. When you're able to think of it in that way, then the effect of the obstacles will be much less. You'll have a more understanding and realization, and that's how also it has helped me in this grieving process with my youngest brother as well, because by that point in time I realized, but I'm not the only one going through this. Therefore I went down when my brother's funeral was taking place. That was on our land, that's private land, but I went down to the public place where they burned bodies on that day also, to pray for all of them, where the bodies were being burnt. Because I went there and I said, I'm not the only family that's grieving. The realization happened that, look at these people, all of them are also grieving. I'm not the only one crying. Here are also a lot of family members crying, going through the grieving process. So I'm not unique in that way. So it's not just that I suffer alone, everybody suffers. So that day, I also, within the 49 days, I went down to the public funeral place, and then I also said a little prayer for them as well. And that, in a way, also helps you, or helped me at least, help me deal with the loss that I was facing. Um, that is the same talk I was giving, not same talk actually, advice I was giving to a friend. I said, for you, please understand, I know you want me to be there for you, to help you to get through the obstacles you're going through, but you have to understand, I'm going through a grieving process myself. I may look strong on the outside. I may look like I'm having a really good time, but internally, I said, I'm also grieving. It's difficult for me to able to help you entirely, devote my entire energy to this situation, but all I want is your understanding. I want your love and compassion also towards me. Just as I extend my love and compassion to everybody, I also expect that everybody will extend their love and compassion, and especially understanding to me as well. Yes, you're going through an obstacle, think like, but you're not the only one. I'm going through an obstacle myself, But even in the situation that I find myself in, at least it motivates me to see, what can I do to lessen the burden that you're going through. I may not be able to remove the entire burden you're going through. That's impossible for anybody to do. But even if it lessens a little bit, if I can chip away at your burden even a little bit, then I'm happy. Just as you all also, please, I always tell people, extend your love and understanding towards me as well. Because yes, you view me as a dharma, people view me as a dharma teacher, somebody as in a position that represents a lineage, but I also cry, as you just saw a few moments ago. I break down, I cry. Even for me, it's difficult to uh, process this loss that I feel. But the way I can help everybody is to be genuinely honest and say, this is how I feel. I hope you can take something from that, learn from that as well, and apply it, to the situation you find yourself in. And that's the best that I can do for me. Again, I don't um, teach at all. I don't like that word teaching. For me, I only advise, because when I sit and talk with all of you and you all talk with me, I'm also learning something, something new. I also learn a lot. Therefore, I'm also receiving teachings from all of you as well. So if you view it as a teaching, for me, whenever I speak, I always say, just view it as an advice. Take that advice, use it if you want, discard it if you don't want it. But everything that I say is just an advice. It comes from my own experience. Uh, for me, also sometimes I'm in a situation where I really have to push the Dharma aside, and I say I have to come and face this challenge from a humanity point of view, not from the Dharma point of view. Although the Dharma may say this is it. If you do this, you'll go to Vajra hell. I have to push that aside sometimes, and I do that, and I'm very honest with people. We talk about in the Vajrayana also. We talk about those people who have broken Damsik, for instance, right? When you break the Damsik with the Tsawil Lama, we are not even supposed to take the person's name or be in the company of that person. Otherwise, you're said that you go to the Vajra hell. If anyone's a scholar, you can correct me on that, but that is my understanding of what it is. But even then, when people come and say, please, I need to do practice. You need to do practice for this person. Somebody who's broken samaya with the root teacher. We have the same root teacher, whatever it is, and broken the practice. And they say, can you do a ceremony for them? So in moments like this also, I've pushed the Dharma aside, and I've said, I'm always emphasizing what bodhicitta is. Then from my own understanding of what bodhicitta is, the aspects of what love and compassion is, when I always talk about open your heart to everybody, no matter what it is. And even if the Dharma prescribes or counsels me that I must not do this, I have to push this aside and do the practice. So yes, also I've done practice for people who have broken samaya with their root teacher or our root teacher, common root teacher. The practice for that also again comes from the realization of having lost so many people, because I can understand what that person's family is going through. Even I can understand, maybe perhaps he was not the best of human being according to my viewpoint. He might not have been the best example of what a Buddhist should have been or a human being should have been. But I also have to take into account that it doesn't matter. He was a loved father. He was a good brother. He was a good friend, a good uncle to somebody else. Or she was a good mother, a good sister, a good friend to somebody else. And that's why this losses that I've faced has also helped me realize that one must have courage sometimes, and do things that may not be in line with the Dharma, but sometimes I push that aside. And when I was in Pema Oseling, the last Drupchen, I was talking about that. I was talking about having the courage to do what is right in the heart sometimes. At least that's how I approach it for me. So in one way, I'm very happy that I've come into the situation with a clean slate, so to speak, with no preconceived notions of how the Dharma is, what the Dharma is about, and things like that. I've come into it, experienced it myself, uh, and adopted, I think, what is good and what works for me. And not that I've rejected the other aspects of it, but I've just concentrated on the aspects which work for me. And one of the aspects that really has worked for me is one is impermanence, understanding what impermanence is. That I had no choice because I had to go through so many experiences. And therefore, as it says in the one rule, one of the thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma is impermanence. And that's what has happened. I also entered the Dharma not because of my devotion that I had, or I had such irreversible faith in the Dharma. That's not one of the reasons why I entered. Why I entered the Dharma is because of loss, of going through the loss, of understanding what impermanence is, of realizing that keeping one's commitment that one has made to, like to my sister. She's one of the main reasons why I entered the Dharma, because before she passed away, She said, make a commitment that you will enter the Dharma. She said, that's all I ask of you, that commitment. So I made that commitment to my sister. It took another year, few months, but now do I have devotion to the Dharma? Yes, otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here. Do I have irreversible faith to the Dharma? Not there yet. Some of the things I see I really don't like. I'm going to be honest, but then again, I'm sorry. If you see me do this time to time, I have more oil from my face than the Texas has oil wells. So hold on. America can run on the oil from my face. So I see my forehead shining. So hold on. Okay. So do I have irreversible fate? Perhaps not yet. Not irreversible fate, but I'm working on it. I've also this not just in the experiencing the loss of my loved ones, but also witnessing the loss of others' loved ones, being there for them at that moment, experiencing that again and again so many times. It has also changed a lot of the way I approach the Dharma as well. For instance, now, those who come and take refuge with me, Dharma is not the first thing I share with them. And whenever people take refuge with me, I said, I'm going to be a very little bit untraditional. I'm not going to be sharing the Dharma with you when you take refuge with me. First, I want to see if I can love you and if I can protect you. If I'm able to keep that commitment, then my third commitment is I will share the Dharma, at least of what little I know. I don't know much, but at least the little that I know, that I've experienced, I will share that with you. For you, those who are taking refuge with me, you cannot take it because you asked for it. And you say, take 2 weeks, 1 week, 10 days to think about it. But the door of refuge is open for you to enter, and the door of refuge is open for you to leave. Whatever samaya you break with me, I forgive you already beforehand. You are not bound to me by any samaya. You think I'm an asshole, walk out the door. You're forgiven. So I approach Dharma in a different way. Yes, very untraditional, but for me, it works. So for me, I don't bind anybody through samaya, or here at Yishinimpo, at least, we do not do anything out of fear. My people will tell you I never talk about Vajra hell. Do I talk about Vajra hell? Only when the food is untasty. Then I say, you're going to Vajra hell. Otherwise, yes. So my people here, and one's hiding there. For the people here, I approach the Dharma without fear. Because for me here at Yishinimpo, again, because of the experiences that I've faced due to impermanence, everything is out of devotion and love. Come and practice because you have devotion. Come and practice because you love to come and practice. Nobody is forced to do anything here at Yishinimpo. There is no fear of the Dharma. We don't even talk about Vajra hells and things like that here. So I'm approaching the Dharma in my own way in terms, certain aspects. Yes, I'm very traditional, as you can see. But again, this is not traditional. I put my own Western style to this. So those who know how a Western Chesham is will not approve of, those who know what a traditional Chesham is will not approve of how I have arranged this Chesham here at the back. But that's my own style, Also, from this experience, it has given me the strength to have a meaningful debate with people who are also traditional, but meaningful in my own way, without disrespect. Like they say, don't wear the shirt color. It's great. Don't wear the sleeve like this. It has to be half. But my argument, at least my perspective is, does the color of my shirt and the length of my sleeve determine how I'm going to die and what's going to happen after I die? Well, if it doesn't, then you should shut up, But if it does, then you have to show me proof that it does, and then I will conform to your advice or what you're saying. So I approach the Dharma differently, sometimes very untraditional, but sometimes also traditional. It's not a Western aspect, like people have this all wrong and misunderstood. I'm not approaching the Dharma from a Western point of view. I'm not approaching the Dharma from an Eastern point of view. I'm approaching the Dharma from my own experience, my own point of view. So for me, I'm neither a monk, I'm neither a yogi. I'm in America, as they say, half and half.
Okay, we have some very interesting and deep questions for you,
Okay, go ahead.
and I'm wondering if you'd like to address those
Sure,
now.
sure, definitely. If I can, I will. If I cannot, I'll just be forthright and tell you I cannot.
Okay, thank you so much. The first is, Rinpoche, please talk about the various ways in which we tend to avoid our grief, how habits can overtake us, and the many ways we distract and even harm ourselves when overwhelmed with unresolved or ongoing grief.
That's a very good question. One of the ways I avoided the grief is through food, through eating, and it became very addictive. And but it was very soothing, a good distraction. So again, at one point in my life, after Samola passed away, I climbed up to 450 pounds. I was stuck in the chair. I couldn't get up. I couldn't go to the bathroom on my own. I think they were there at that point as well. I couldn't go to the bathroom on my own. And I was self-destructing completely. I hope you, all of you listening, you don't get to that point or you don't turn to addiction. But I got very, very, very addicted to food. It started from the passing away from my grandmother, then slowly my father was sick throughout till his parinirvana. My sister was sick. So the best option for me was just to eat, 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 eat. So I got to the point where I was 450. My younger brother also, youngest brother, to deal with his pain, he turned to alcohol. It became an addiction for him, and that's why he lost his life, is due to that addiction. So I was addicted to food. And as I said, again, you can lie to anybody. It doesn't matter. But you should not lie to yourself. The turning point was the Sangha wanted to offer a long life. If you know what a Tenshu is, it's a long life offering, a request for a Lama to remain for longer here on this realm. So they wanted to offer a Tenshu for me. But I was self-destructing, and in one way, I was hoping that that would really I used to say, I just hope I don't open my eyes and just have to just keep my eyes closed forever. I hope that, going down that path, I hope that's what the result would be. But the turning point came when they wanted to offer a Tensho. And I said, my God, people actually really want me to live, you know. So I had to really realize that I was self-destructing and there were people here who needed me. And if I don't fight for myself, it's okay. But isn't the Dharma about not being selfish? Isn't the Dharma about also helping other beings? So that was the turning point. And I said, okay, if you all offer Tenshu to me, then I also make a commitment that I will take care of my health. And then they offered the Tenshu. And that day, then and there, I took a good look at myself, means in the mirror. I didn't like what was reflected back because I avoided the mirror at all costs. Because when you're in denial, you have nothing. I've always said that when you're in denial, if I look in the mirror and I see like Brad Pitt staring back at me, right? You have nothing to worry about. I have nothing to work on, like that. So at least the outwardly, the reflection that was reflected back, I didn't like. Inwardly, also, the reflection that was reflected back, I didn't like because it was all about my pain, what I'm going through. It was not about what others were going through and are going to go through as well. So that was the turning point for me. Don't turn to addiction in the pain. Even you can use pain to further your understanding of the Dharma or to live the Dharma through your own experience. Because Dharma is not reflected just through prayers accumulations and retreats alone. The Dharma can be reflected through so many different aspects. One of the aspects is taking care of yourself, because also taking care of your own happiness, because what you have, you can share. What you have, you cannot share. At the worst point of my moment, when I was in the depths of pain and suffering there, eating myself to death, what happiness would I have shared with people, even those people who came to receive blessings for long life, or those who came to ask for um, resolution to the conflicts that they were having, or to remove the obstacles they were having. Genuinely, what could I have shared and given? Nothing, because I was not in that state myself as well. Even now, when I do talks and things like that, I'm very honest with people. I always say, sitting on that throne for 5 to 6 hours, 70% is acting. Is because I have to sit there, you know, up there. So you have to be truthful with yourself. 70% is acting, 10% is devotion for me, 10% is my commitment to the Dharma, and 10% is because of the aspirations of all the people who expect me to be there. So 30% I would say is good motivation. 70% I would say is all acting. I just have to sit there because I have to sit there. There's nothing I can do. But you have to be truthful. That's important.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Question number 2. As a former hospice volunteer, during training, we were advised that avoiding or suppressing the expression of grief can cause long-term physical, psychological, and emotional problems. Yet, even in the Sangha, people seem to avoid talking about their grief, though this is when we most need support, and we end up isolated. What can we do about this?
That's why I emphasize that you must have group meetings or group talks, or during talks, you must emphasize the point. If you're going through pain and suffering, be open about it. Only when you're open about it, you talk about it. Then as a community, we can think of how we can help, keeping pain and suffering and the obstacles you're going through to yourself is not conducive also to your practice. Okay, this is important. You must change the culture. In our culture here, also in the Vajrayana culture, nobody talks about depression. Nobody talks about mental health. These things are important. Depression, mental health is very important. The state of mind that you're in is very important. I mean, we have also what is known as Semki Dungsel. That is the pill. I call it the happy pill. The New Rinpoche's happy pill. Semki Dungsel, that deals with these aspects almost like from 500 years ago. So 500 or even more years ago, we were talking about these things, but I don't know what shifted, especially in the Sangha, there is no shame. Everybody has mental problems that they face, issues that they face. Depression is also another important subject that people rarely talk about or hardly talk about. So the culture has to completely change. We have to not stigmatize these two aspects in our community. Even in my own culture, when you talk about mental weakness, it's a taboo because it doesn't exist in our culture. If you are depressed and you have mental issues, you're somebody to be avoided at all costs. Or if they have mental issues and depression, they don't talk about it because it's stigmatized so much. So in order to remove that kind of viewpoint, is that if certain of members of the Sangha, you make a WeChat group or you make a WhatsApp group, and then, as you're comfortable, you don't have to explain, at least to the point of what makes you comfortable. But there's not a single one of us that doesn't have a mental challenge that we face. Even death and dying and grieving is also a mental challenge that all of us will have to face in one point in a time, in one way or another. So first thing is not to stigmatize and these aspects, and to encourage people. Here they are free to talk about their craziness if they want them.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Here's one. Thank you for being so compassionate. I just lost my husband and am in so much pain. How do I find a way to live to continue to benefit him?
One way that you can do that is to honor, at least in his memory, to just I'm not talking about materialistically, but I'm just talking about just being there for others that are going through the same problems. Again, as I said earlier, the one way to honor him is also to work on your own self-transformation, is to open your heart. This is very important because you will understand what impermanence is. So if you have things that need to be resolved with people, I always talk about this. I'm famous for talking about 15 people I hate in my life. Absolutely. I got over 4 of them. One I made peace with. Luckily, one died. So now I have 9. but, but the sad fact of samsara is people who need to die don't die. Those who need to live longer pass away. So that's just my viewpoint regarding these 9 people. So I always tell my Sangha, you want me to live long, pray for these 9 people that they live long, but I'm not dying before them. I'm going to go after them. But getting back to your question, one way is to honor your late husband is really just being there for others, because now you understand what grief is, truly understand when you read the words in the Dharma, even if you do the practice, especially the Ngondro, these words will be highly, profoundly now meaningful to you. Now, if I talk about, look, life is transient, everything is impermanent. So be kind and understanding with everyone that you meet. Now you'll be able to have that realization. So it also, right now, you have the window of opportunity to gain these kinds of realizations. So it's very difficult because I can sit here and talk to those who haven't gone through anything. I can sit here and say, life is impermanent, and repeat the mantra 100 million times. You will still not be able to get it as this lady does with me just saying once, repeating the sentence once. Life is transient. Nothing remains the same. Therefore, cultivate loving kindness in your heart. Open your heart to others, be there for somebody else in need. So honor your husband in that way. It can be cultivation of generosity towards others, of just listening to somebody who just needs to talk, taking a simple bowl of chicken soup or vegan soup if you're a vegan for somebody who is sick, just being there, present for somebody who needs a companion at that moment will be one of the best ways of honoring your husband, at least from my understanding.
Thank you, Rinpoche. I am wondering what you mean by inherited karma. I've not heard that term before. Would you please speak more about this?
Inherited karma is the continuous action that we have, the karma that we inherit, the good and the bad, right? Even as I'm talking to you, I'm inheriting karma. It doesn't matter. Maybe it's positive, maybe it's negative. It's not just in this lifetime. But again, as I said, I'm not a scholar, so please clarify this with Kempos or Rinpoches or somebody from that background. Inherited karma is the karma we create ourselves, not just in this lifetime, but in all previous lifetimes. Sometimes, like people that I meet, they always say sometimes cancer is because of one's karma. That's not true. But if there's no reason for sometimes somebody doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, has led a healthy lifestyle, it's not even in their genetics to have cancer in their family history, but yet they have cancer. At that moment, when we cannot say why, then perhaps then only we cannot be, again, 100% sure. But maybe we can say, okay, maybe it's perhaps due to inherited karma at that situation. It cannot be validated. So that's the inherited karma. Means the karma that we have made, not just in this lifetime, but we've made in all our previous lifetimes.
If we don't reach liberation in this life, nor in the bardo of dying, which aspiration or actions must a person cultivate in this life in order to be in contact with the Dharma and with a genuine teacher in future lives?
That's a very good question. Now, again, not from a Dharma point of view, but from my own point of view, this is A, B, and C, right? For instance, this is the realm we are in. This is the realm where people are suffering, and this is the realm of liberation, say, whichever Buddha field or thing you're going to. So our aspiration always when we practice is we want to reach B. That's the Buddha field, always Buddha field. But for me, I feel that's a wrong motivation, because as Vajrayana warriors, so we are supposed to be warriors of the Vajrayana, our aspirations should always be to either come back to this realm where people are suffering, or even don't be afraid of going to this realm where there are a lot of beings that are suffering, where there's a hell realm or things. Aspiration must be always to go where people are suffering so you can help, or sentient beings are suffering so you can help. When you have the aspiration to do this, your karmic wind may also automatically take you to be to the Buddha field, you see. But if your motivation, I feel, and aspiration is always to skip two realms of suffering and you want to go to B of the Buddha field, that's a wrong motivation to have. So one's motivation, at least, again, please clarify with your teacher. I'm not saying it's not good to have an aspiration to go to the Buddha field, but more emphasis should be, let me be reborn back into where people are suffering. That kind of intention, that kind of motivation will, I think, help you get liberated to one of the Buddha fields or the better places, rather than having the intention and the motivation of saying, oh, I want to escape the suffering and go, but that's a wrong intention. A Vajrayana warrior or a practitioner is somebody, because we make a commitment, until the end of time, may I come back again and again and again until all beings are free of suffering and the causes of suffering from this ocean of samsara. That is the motivation we must have. That is the aspiration we must have. But with that kind of motivation and aspirations, again, as I said, because of one's inherited karma, because the motivation is so pure, I feel that you will either take rebirth back in the Dharma family or you will be liberated to one of the Buddha fields. Now, again, please check with your respective lamas and teachers. For my people here, I always tell them the aspiration is we must have what's bodhicitta is to see that there are so many beings suffering. Again, like all of us right now, I say we don't meet because of it's a coincidence. We meet again because we've met before, and we'll meet again and again and again in future lifetimes. We may not remember it, but my aspiration is, may I come back again and again, at least to all of you or to them, to repay the karmic debt. So wherever there is suffering, may I be reborn in that so I can help them. And that's the motivation and the aspiration I think we should have from my point of view.
I think you've addressed this, but I'll read it. Perhaps you have more thoughts on this particular question. The Dharma answers our questions about suffering. It's clear that cyclic existence is rooted in this. But grief isn't intellectual and can be ongoing for so many reasons, since impermanence and loss are the bottom line here. Rinpoche, please advise us how to support and be present for each other in an active way.
This is something that I want to touch upon also is we are all in the relative experience, no matter what it is. We have to live in this relative sense. We are not in the absolute. So we have to go through this. Therefore, sometimes people say, in absolute sense or from the absolute point of view, they say there is no suffering or there is no sickness, there's nothing. It's all an illusion. I don't subscribe to, not to that view, but I don't subscribe to the method of how people talk about this, because those who talk about, like in the sense that It's in the relative sense, yes, it is what it is, but in the absolute sense, everything is an illusion. To those of you who talk like that, I always say, then give me your money, your bank balance. I'll use it in the relative experience. I'll take it. You know, send me all your money, send me your bank balance, send me your car. Everything is an illusion. Send me, you know, give me your house, put it in my name, because I want to drown myself in this relative experience, because this is what I find myself in. I always tell people, we must deal with the situation that presents itself, whether it's the absolute or the relative, it doesn't matter. In the relative sense, yes, although dharma does counsel you and how, you know, but dharma counsels you in a way, you know, which I understand, where we say attachment is the cause of pain, because there is nothing to attach to. Actually, honestly speaking, there is no attachment in the dharma, because we are all one, but and therefore there's nothing to attach to. That's fine, but we're in the relative world. That's the absolute. This is a relative experience. When you find yourself in the ocean, learn how to swim, not how to hike, because you're not on land, you'll die. If you find yourself in the ocean, the situation presents itself that the ship is sinking, what's the use of practicing walking? Although there is land at the bottom, you're going to sink. So another way that how I want to convey this is that it's all about transformation. This is very important. When we are grieving, you have to understand that even grief is giving you an opportunity to transform yourself. So, and although it is a very unfortunate situation, but yet it presents so much valuable uh, teaching moments or learning moments. So even in your grief, view it as a precious condition or cause and condition for you to comprehend what the Dharma is really teaching you. Because at that moment, you'll truly understand what bodhicitta really means. At that moment, perhaps you won't be able to sustain that understanding, but at least for that moment. So use it as a teachable moment, an opportunity for you to learn, an opportunity for you to transform yourself, your heart, and use that opportunity to better yourself as a more, not as a good human being, but better version of yourself as you were the day before. You know, this is important, a better version of yourself as you were in the morning, at least something that's more, whose aspirations and intentions are not selfish, because this impermanence and this moment really opens up your mind in helping you gain these realizations. From the moment we're able to understand till the last breath we take, you're going to have little moments of realizations along this path. This is one opportunity, but it's a profoundly immense, big sort of an opportunity. So take that opportunity, you know. Again, I've already answered this. For me, grieving is grieving. It's okay. I'm a human being. If somebody that you love dies and you suppress your emotions and you don't cry, I would definitely think you're from Mars or Jupiter or somewhere else. Definitely. So the grieving process is a grieving process. We're human beings. I told you, we're human beings. Therefore, we love. Because we love, we attach. And because our state is not in the state of what you call the realization right now, our mind is not on the depths of realization, talking about non-attachment. Intellectually, we can understand that. But in our own depths of our heart and our mind, we are not going to be able to experience it. That's a different, because we love. If I tell a mother, you know, your child and you are one and the same, your child died, have no attachment, attachment is a cause of pain. That's not sincere, because I'm not even on that level, you know. If you have tasted what absolute truth is, then okay, fine, I will respect you, you know, for that. But if you haven't even tasted what absolute truth is, then just keep shut and just have a drink, whatever you need to do. So I hope that.
Thank you, Rinpoche. And one more question. Rinpoche, thank you so much for your openness. Is allowing the suffering of others into our awareness evidence of an understanding of aspirational bodhicitta? And could actively being present and available for others be like practical bodhicitta?
Yes, you've hit the nail on the head. That is the experience of bodhicitta, and the practical side of bodhicitta is being present there. Because bodhicitta is something that must not just be generated within, that aspect of bodhicitta must also be, what would you say, put into action. So the action of bodhicitta is being there present. The understanding of others' pain and suffering is the understanding of what bodhicitta is. But it's not just enough to understand. That's why I always tell people, it's not enough you go and say, for the benefit of all sentient beings, I dedicate today whatever I have done, right? The minute the talk is over, then everybody goes and bitches about each other. What happened to that? That even maintaining the awareness of what you've just closed the prayers with, or the talk with, or all your ceremonies with, having closed that, may all beings be free of suffering and the causes of suffering, at least some form of that prayer is always in the closing prayers. It doesn't matter which lineage we're in, right? It's always dedicated to that. But the problem is, it's only for that moment. We say it like a parrot, or even if we mean it, we are not able to sustain that understanding and awareness. So bodhicitta you must not just have that awareness of it, but you must also put that bodhicitta into action. So one way you can really do that is cultivating generosity. So many aspects of generosity. So generosity can be translated into just generosity of listening, that somebody is in pain, suffering, they just need to talk, just lend a ear. You're practicing bodhicitta. That's bodhicitta in action, right? As I said, go take a soup for somebody who's sick, go help somebody who's an elderly, also somebody maybe they cannot lift heavy things, they're moving home or house, or they're moving into a new apartment, go and help them. But having genuine understanding of what you're doing, right? Don't go just to show, don't say I'm a Buddhist, this is what I need to do. No, as a Buddhist, that's not what you need to do. As a human being, that's what you should do, not as a Buddhist. So bodhicitta is actually, when you really think about it, it's a human aspect. It's a universal law, at least for me, it's a universal understanding of what bodhicitta is. It's not just for us Buddhists. Bodhicitta should be cultivated just because we're human beings. It's not just a religious aspect of it, but it's a humanity, or is it humanity? What do you call it? Humane is like putting down animals humanely, no? Okay, you can strike that out if that is wrong. But it's, as a human being, that's a decent thing to do. But as a Buddhist, then not just that action that you perform as a human being, but contemplating on what you have done. This is also important. Contemplating on why you did it. Did you do it to show off? Did you do it because you wanted favors with that person? Or did you really do it as a Buddhist? You're held to this higher expectations of reflecting, did it really come from the aspect of love and compassion derived from bodhicitta, or did I just do it because I wanted to look good, or things like that? That's important. I feel as a practitioner, is contemplate on your actions also once you've done it.
And then someone wrote in with this observation: Rinpoche's journey reminds me of the story of Prince Siddhartha leaving the palace and encountering birth, old age, sickness, and death.
I haven't. Yes. Old age, yes. I'm turning 50 this October. It's true. It's I mean, not just for me, it's true for every one of you, actually. I'm not just unique to this. This is true for every one of you, each and every one of you. Everyone's journey is the Siddhartha's journey, whether you realize that or not. That's our Buddhist journey. Collectively, this is what we are going to go through. My only prayer on this path and this journey is that these kind of things don't happen very often. But again, as I say, we are powerless to do anything about it. So yeah, but everyone collectively, all our journey is that journey of Gautama Siddhartha himself.
Mm. Thank you so much, Rinpoche. I think that we are all very moved by this talk you've given us because it feels like you're with us. So we're very, very, very grateful, and we like to thank you from our hearts for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.